Rosemarie Gage, thank you so much for joining us again on the I Am Unbreakable podcast. You know, I love you to pieces, and you and I talk and talk and talk for hours. So I really wanted to have you back on quickly. How are you today?
I am great, Adrienne. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for asking. You know, you are such an important person to me. We have known each other, I think, a few years, but in the last few months, you and I have really chatted about everything business and personal. But we're talking about a few things today that I feel is so incredibly important. And I want others to be able to reap the benefits that I have from you, from your knowledge and your experience around a few topics. One big one for me is community. Now, I have always been huge about being very active within the community that I service. I think it's important, just from an ethical standpoint, and also to be able to support the community that we service within. Why do you think the word community and it's really coming up in business? Why do you feel that that's happening right now?
Well, I think it's always happened. And I think that it's really now we're still in a pandemic world. It's not as critical. COVID is not as closed down as it used to be, but we're still in a pandemic world. And so I think the amount of distancing we had to do for, a fairly long period of time. Human beings are social animals. We need that interaction. We need that ability to be part of something. So I think now more than ever, community is really critical. I believe that community is ultimately the thing that drives us alongside with our intimate relationships. Being part of something bigger is so important. It's not just about what I do or what you do, it's what we can all do together. And community can be a variety of different things. If you're religious, it can be your religious community. If you volunteer, it can be your volunteer community. If you are part of a specific sector, say for instance you're in manufacturing, it can be part of being in that manufacturing association and trying to work together to improve what you're experiencing. So it can be a lot of different things, but it's really critical now more than ever to actually be involved.
I love that. And you said so many things about community, but community to me is also it is obviously very important to come together and to work together towards, let's say, a common mission or vision. And but I also feel, especially for women, I feel that community is so incredibly important. And I'll tell you what I think, and then I want to hear what you have to say regarding it, because as women, we are so many different things throughout our personal and professional life. And I feel that as women, when we come together, we are able to support, lift, learn, teach, and share. And I think it's such a unique, beautiful thing. It's one of the things I love, one of the many things I love about being a woman, but it is so incredible when I see all these women come together for a common, for common ground or for whatever that they're working towards. It's so inspiring, motivating, and again, not just gender based, but I just feel for women, it is just such an important thing. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been involved from a gender based community perspective, pretty much all my professional career. I found that when I went into electrical manufacturing, when I first graduated from university, there was not a real home for women in the workplace. I tended to be the novel, different looking one in the room. And so when we fostered that opportunity to be able to collaborate, to be able to share opportunities, to be able to share how do you deal with sticky situations or what exists there to support you, it was really meaningful. And as I continued throughout my career, I had more and more of those opportunities. I had more opportunities to be able to lead different women's groups, be vocal about women's advancement advancement, the opportunities to, I'll call it, level the playing field and make things equitable. I've been very blessed with that opportunity. So it is very important. It's important to hear the great stories. It's important to hear the challenges. It's important to share. It's important to say, you know what, look, sometimes I, like many others, suffer from imposter syndrome. I forget what I've done. I forget what the meaning of my life has been and what my career has been. And so it's important to have that safe space to be able to communicate. It's important to see that others are doing things as well, and to learn from it. So I think there's great opportunity. And until we actually have parity in the world with our male peers, I think it's really important that we continue to have various communities to be able to advance.
I love that. And you know what, Rosemarie, you said it so beautifully. And it really takes me back. And I've been doing sort of a lot of reflecting lately. I wonder if you do the same about, my mother, my grandmother, and our ancestors before us. Because it wasn't when people start putting dates to things of when women were allowed to have bank accounts, or they were allowed to vote, or they were allowed to do this or that. I just think, wow, there was some rock star women before our time. And they somehow got to hear. And, I always say that they knew, innately in their heart that it would take a larger group of rock star women to carry on their legacy, to continue to level the playing field as such, right?
Yes, oh,
Do you
for
ever think
certain.
about that? Do you ever think about your ancestors or women before us?
I think about women before us. The women in my family, my ancestors, happened to be Yugoslavian or Slovenian, and they had traditional roles. And so my mother was a phenomenal mother. She was a phenomenal wife. She was a phenomenal community member. Um, in terms of what I got from her was, you know what, go ahead and try. What's the worst thing that
I
can
love
happen? You'll be in the exact same position than you are right now. So try. There's no cost to trying outside of time, so give it a try. And I mean, I look at my parents, whether my mother or my father, they made a big choice to come to Canada.
that.
My dad had a pack sack on his back and basically fled Yugoslavia for a better place. He became a refugee. So I have, very, very deep courage that I see from that happened. And I don't think I'll ever have the courage that he had. And my mother and my brother came with one suitcase. I mean, that's humble beginnings to a new start, to not knowing what the heck's going to happen, but it's all about that better opportunity, that better way. And so right there, I have a perfect example about, what, there's nothing I'm ever going to do in my life that's ever going to top that. So you know what?
Yeah.
Try,
Yeah.
try,
Keep
try.
trying and moving forward. I think our upbringing was very similar. In my story is the same as that they arrived with the backpack they had on their back. I don't think our generation, like you said, could have necessarily done that and come to a different country having no, like both my parents came in 56, had no English, no, like, let's say, skill, and they made it work, and they were so brave and they wanted a better life. And I feel like we're doing the same. I mean, I think we all do it in different ways. And, whether it's forming, a different community, and whether it's being part of the bigger picture, which is so incredibly important, but it is still a big step for us to sort of continue to carry the torch. I think that's sort of my point, is because for me, throughout my career, and I've shared this with you, I didn't realize till about 14 years in that I was the first Canadian woman to own a private investigation agency, until somebody nominated me for something and I was like, "Oh, I am? Okay." Like, again, it was just not a big deal to me. And then as people sort of made it a big deal, I was curious to know why. And then I started sort of understanding it. But like you, I was brought up, thankfully, and thank goodness to my parents, where it was like, who cares if you're a girl? And I remember being told many times no because of gender, and many different obstacles, many different failures, but it just really gives me that I guess, appreciation and thankfulness and gratitude to the many amazing women before our time. Everybody talks about, even before the breaking glass ceilings and whatnot, even before that phrase was sort of coined, is that they did do that, and it sort of laid a path for us and we have to continue down. So I think what all women that are sort of coming together and doing is absolutely phenomenal, yourself included, because I know you have moved mountains. I know you are extremely humble. And so I will just say that I know you've done amazing things within your career, within the few decades that you have been in male dominated industries. And you have a wonderful reputation of being authentic and being kind. And I think those are the things that to me really lay the groundwork for a good human. It doesn't, regardless of gender, right?
I
And
agree.
so I'm gonna ask somebody like you, which is sort of a question that a lot of people are like, well, oh, there was bumps and bruises along the way. But why do you feel it is so important for humans, women, entrepreneurs, whoever, to struggle and to fail?
Well, I think, we all come into the world with no knowledge, right? You're born, you have no knowledge. And failure is just part of the education process. Failure tells you, oh, well, I couldn't figure this out this time. Now I need to do this. Oh, I skinned my knee because I didn't tie my shoelace up. Okay, tie the shoelace up. So it's an iterative process, right? It's Edison had to, reinvent the light bulb over 10,000 times before it worked. So I think the iteration of a learning, of getting feedback, failure is really just getting a lot of feedback and learning about yourself, how you respond, and then also how the world responds to you, or the set of circumstances respond to you. So it's really, oh, I'll try this. If it doesn't work, okay, more feedback. I'll try this again. If it doesn't work, okay, well, maybe we'll change the environment to this, and maybe the environment will be better. So it's really about, you know, listening to what you're given as feedback, and then figuring out, okay, what's my next step? What do I need to do? If you don't feel like you're fit anymore within your organization, go somewhere where you will be a fit, or make your own career in terms of become an entrepreneur, make your own business, do that, flourish. Sometimes getting the feedback gives us alternatives to understand who we are better, and gives us the opportunity for better choice. So I think there's a need to really pay attention. And Oprah Winfrey had quoted the comment of, listen to the whisper before they become screams. And so little failures are okay, because if you learn from it, but big failures, maybe they might be hard on you. So listen and be prepared to act or react to the feedback that you're getting. And I think it's just part of our evolution.
And you said a few different things that I want to touch on. First of all, Oprah, has been always a huge mentor to me. And that is so, I mean, to me, it's so powerful. And when people say, talk less and listen more, the greatest leaders listen and they talk last. And I never understood that in my younger years, and sort of, and then as I became, coming into your own, the more that I dove into the reasons why, it's because number one, they wanted to make, their team feel like they were heard, as well as then they got all the knowledge and the information. And even in personal relationships, when people come to me when their life has just been blown up, and they're like, when we started dating, I should have listened. Now 27 years later, 11 years later, 4.5 kids later, I should have listened. And I feel like what you're saying is the same thing. If you listen to what's going on outside, listen doesn't necessarily mean this. It means the little failures. Are they lessons? Are they redirect? Because I think and the other important thing too, sorry that you said, it almost sounds like what you're saying is it's also redirection sometimes. And it's the lessons, and it's changing your narrative about, oh my God, I failed. Oh my gosh, I made such a big mistake. I cannot believe it. Where I know for me, what helped me through that negativity, and as an entrepreneur, as a human, we are not exempt from suffering or tragedy or trauma. And I think it's sort of reshaping our own narrative. However you speak, I know for me, I always say, okay, wow. Okay, so what's next? Okay, universe, I hear you. And I'm not like, oh my God, what else can happen next? Even though I feel like that sometimes, right? It's kind of like, okay, I know you're trying to say something, and then you're curious. And like you said, then you look around at options. And that's sort of what you're saying in a workspace and in a personal space. Am I
Oh yeah, I
getting that
mean,
right?
like I've been in interesting workspaces where I got severed from a role, which was, when I look back at it very realistically, I wasn't surprised. And I was actually very relieved and very happy when it happened, right? And it's like, oh, people say, well, what happens when you get, taken out of an organization? It's like, for me, it was the single best thing that could ever happen, because the universe was giving me feedback and I was just bound and determined to make it work.
Yeah,
And
you were like,
no one,
you looked at it as a challenge, and the universe
yes,
was like, no, Rosemarie, I've told you it's this way. You've gone this way and you've gotten to, this height. Now I'm tearing it down because you were meant for better and different things. And I
exactly.
really believe that. And knowing you, the little bit that I think I know, because I wasn't in your world when you did all these amazing things with these organizations and different boards and everything that you've done, you just were determined. It was almost like not a challenge, but it was like, okay, there was a problem, you're solution focused, I think.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
as
And I
opposed
like
to
to
saying,
assist. If I think I have resources that can help, I'm more than happy to, roll up the sleeves and help out. It's not problematic for me. There's not a lot of things that I fear. They say, are you the type of person that runs towards a fire, grab hold of the fire and does something with it, or do you run away from the fire? I tend to run towards the fire, and I look towards solutions. So for me, it's not problematic.
yeah.
So from that perspective, it's really, really quite important. Oh, I have a visitor here.
Hi, how
Sorry.
are you?
I'm being
Aw,
recorded right now.
I
Oh,
love
sorry,
it. Well,
sweetie.
hey, you
Oh,
better
that's the
stay
lady
here.
from Oakville,
that's
right?
Adrian.
Yes. So
Yes, I remember seeing you.
Rosemary, you
Here,
now
come
have
here.
to introduce your amazing husband, please.
Okay, come in.
Oh.
You're gonna be, this is my husband Eddie.
Hi.
He's my soulmate. He's a wonderful man, a great supporter, and I couldn't ask for better.
Oh, I love that. Can you tell us one thing about Rosemarie that she would never tell anybody, and no embarrassing stuff? But what's
Nothing
one
embarrassing,
thing
Mama.
that she does? Because she's very humble, and I'm trying to pull all these wonderful things out of her. Can you share one of the amazing things that you know about her that maybe we wouldn't?
Oh, that you wouldn't, because I was going to say she has a great heart. But,
Oh,
but
well,
I
that
think, but I think if people get to know my wife, they know that.
Oh, I
Yes.
love that. And you know what? It's so nice that you would share that, because that's exactly how I feel about her as well. But it's so important to have a partner who supports you. And I know you really support her. So thank you for that.
And she supports me.
Well, of course she
Yes.
does. But it's
So,
important for women to have their partner sort of have their back and to stand beside them or behind them or in front of them when they need it. So I love that about you. And I hope to meet you soon face to face.
hey, I support my wife and my sweetheart 1000%.
Aw, that's
Hey,
come
bye.
on. Bye. Is that not the sweetest thing ever?
Yeah, I'm
The
very
sweetest
fortunate.
thing ever. And you know what? I love that. People, when I'm on and doing podcasts, and either their significant other, their dog, their kid comes in, I'm like, that's okay. Like, to me, That's so endearing. And that, brings us to what is going to be our next podcast, which is going to be about the importance of having a partner that loves and supports you. And I know he does immensely. And that is so incredible because you really do have an amazing heart. And to be able to share your life with somebody that is able to foster you and your growth, wherever that may lead, right? Because today it's this, tomorrow it's that, last year it was this. And I love that. I think you two make the best couple.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's beautiful to have that in my life because I mean I'm I've been divorced. So obviously I didn't get it right before. So to actually now at this stage of my life, it's really nice to have somebody who gets you, who supports you, and he really does. I mean,
I
it doesn't
know.
mean that we don't have our own, independent thoughts or anything like that, but really when I want something, he's the first person to encourage me. You know, after, I've had that brainwave where he'll even go out of his way to introduce opportunities to me. It's really quite amazing. I'm very blessed is probably the best way to say it. And I'm so totally appreciative of having him in my life.
And I know you are, because you and I have talked about it many times. And, it kind of brings me to thinking, the women or men or people that do not have their other partner, kind of support them and say, well, you should be in this role, you should be at home with the kids, or you should be, for women, they tell, maybe their husbands, well, you should be at work supporting this or doing that. I feel like, do you think it's because of our age? Because I think lots of people, we're sort of the norm. I think it's 3 out of 4 people are separated, remarried, single, whatever you want to call it. And do you feel it's because you've raised your standards as we get older and we realize it's not necessarily finding what you do want? For me, it was knowing what I didn't want. Do you
Oh,
feel
well,
it's
yeah.
the same?
Well, I think, I was, and I have to laugh because I did this exercise called the 100 Wishes. And it's from a book called The Aladdin Factor by the 2 gentlemen that did the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Yep.
And so that was very pivotal for my life because I sat down and I actually completed the exercise of what my 100 wishes would be. And then I was still married to my former husband at the time. And I realized, and I mean, innately, I knew this too, that it wasn't going to work out. So I had to make changes. So fast forward it to the opportunity of meeting my husband. Oh my God, like I had a detailed, and this is where, sort of the nerd in me, Sean, I had this detailed list of what the perfect person would be. And he was all that and more. And so when I met him,
Wow.
it was like, holy cow, it's like
You're
this
like, where
exists.
did you come from? Did you read my list?
Yeah, and it was, and I laughed at it because I said to him, I said, "Oh my God, now that I've met you, here's my list." And he laughed, right? And he goes, "Okay, now that I know you a little bit better, I can appreciate the fact that you did the list." But he said, "I'm very humbled by the fact that you said that I've overachieved from your list." So,
And
I mean,
checked all the boxes.
plus it was like he scored 1,000%. And so it was really quite nice to actually see sort of all the things I was yearning for and I required. And in there was a supportive spouse, in there was someone who would give me the space to grow and learn and provide meaning however that I defined it to be. I mean, yeah, it's wonderful, and he gets me, and it's really difficult to find people who will understand you. And so yeah, no, it's been
Especially when
wonderful.
you, yeah, and sorry, I think we have a delay. I cut you off. Is that especially with people like us who sort of think outside the box? We're either far from the perimeter or in the perimeter. And so to have somebody like your husband that gets you and that understands when you need space, when you need support, when you need encouragement, when you need love, and when you need just to be you. It's a rare thing, but it goes back to something that Tony Robbins taught me, which is raise your standard, right? And raise your
Yes.
standard or standards could be personally or professionally, which is sort of what we're talking about today, even
Absolutely.
with the community or things that are just not working for us. So let me ask you this, what does it mean to you to be unbreakable?
Um, I think to me, unbreakable means that I have the strength to be able to do whatever I'm determined to do. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be hard times. It just means I have the strength and conviction to do whatever I feel is necessary. And sometimes it's dealing with, a challenging circumstance. Sometimes it's dealing with a challenging person. Sometimes it's making a harsh decision that really changes your life. And
Mhm.
it's really sitting back and saying, okay, I'm going to be okay with this. I just need to spend some time, some energy to be able to go ahead. It doesn't mean that you're never going to be sad. It doesn't mean that you're never going to deal with conflict. It just means that you will survive and you will flourish.
And I love that. I think that you're also saying that you have rock star confidence, but you also have the belief in yourself. You might not have the plan, but you believe in yourself that everything's going to work out and it's going to be okay. And I
Yes.
feel like, do you think that comes with age and with experience and with knowledge to be able to have the confidence to know that regardless what we go through, and there's some horrendous things that human beings and suffering that we have to go through, whether it's the passing of a loved one or the pain of something that happens with, if we have children or pets or friends or relatives. And it's sort of, having the confidence, the tools, the know-how, the support, the community to know that you're going to be okay through it. But I hear what you're saying, taking it one step further, is that you believe in yourself, which I think is such key to people being happy and confident.
Yeah, no, it's true. And God bless. If my mother was here, she'd be the first person to say, look, Rosemarie, from the point that you were a young child, you didn't know the word no. You just went for it. If it meant that you would have to spend a ton of time and energy on something, you did it until you actually succeeded. And it's very true. Sometimes that resilience thing takes a little bit longer than other people, but I don't like to give up. I don't like to defer on something if I don't have to. Mind you, there's stuff that I don't know and I don't understand, and that's where experts and people with way better knowledge than I have come into play, right? So know your strength, know your weaknesses, but it's important to recognize that what, it's okay to try. It's okay to believe in yourself. It's okay to have the courage to open up a brand new door of opportunity and to slam the door of displeasure or a lack of opportunity. And so I think there's just, sometimes just open up the darn door and walk through it and try.
Yes. And, do you think that's why so many people and so many women that I speak to on a daily basis are reinventing themselves? And I don't know that it had really anything to do with the pandemic. Of course, that changed the landscape of everything from communication to community to life to family and so many other things that we don't have time for. But do you feel that women are really taking a look in the mirror, and whether it's pre-kids, while raising kids, no kids, having the decision to not have any children, maybe having fur babies, or just being single and not even having a partner? Do you think it's about sort of the wellness, let's say, phenomenon that's hit in the last 10 or 15 years, where people are being forced to sort of look in the mirror and say, wow, that's hard to look at. That's scary. It's going to be a lot of work, but there's a lot of what I see that I don't like and I want to change it. What do you think? Why are so many people reinventing themselves and changing their career and changing their lives?
I think deep down inside, it's all a personal choice, right? You look at things in your life and you say, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And so then, if you're fortunate, you have the opportunity to be able to pivot and go to something else, whatever that means. If you don't like your career, maybe get, more education, or maybe try another role somewhere else.
Mhm.
If it's not working out with friendships or partners, whether it's professional or relational, uh, you make choices, right? Sometimes, there's a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Sometimes things are in our life for a season that we learn for so we can grow. Sometimes it's a reason we haven't mastered something. We need to be exposed to it. We then again learn from it, and we figure out what works for us. And then the lifetime is, there's certain people in our lives that will be those lifetime supporters, that strength and everything else. And so you have to be able to look at things and say, when is my time out? Because sometimes things become too uncomfortable and too much of a sacrifice for you personally. And you then need to make a choice. And sometimes you just have a more of a path that you wish to follow, and the other person doesn't get it, and you have to again make some choices. So
And
I think it's really very situational and personal. But I think, now with technology, with things so in the open and much more transparency, now more than ever we have choices with hybrid work or work from home. The life you can lead now can be so much better. And you can do a variety of things, and you can have, Alexa remind you for something. You didn't have that 10, 15 years ago. So, enabling technology allow us to give us more strength, give us more opportunities, give us more time. All that comes into play. And I think the pandemic showed us that, what, our really close relationships really mean something, and we need to nurture them. And
mm,
sometimes, just working for the sake of working to get in dollars may not be enough anymore. Maybe having to have more of a fit for you rather than just an income. And I understand that a lot of us have to work, and we may not have options, but I think the thing is, keep working your options.
you know what? And I agree with you. And I think I made some notes as you were talking, because there's so many things, and we'll probably have to save it for next time. But the big thing, I think what you're also saying, and I know sort of what I believe, is people are also looking at their happiness. And it's like, yes, I have to provide for my family. I work, 5 days a week, 40 to 65 hours a week. And, at the end of it, and when I say at the end of it, I mean at the end of our life, and I've done quite a few, kind of supports for people that are passing away or passing through and whatnot. People always just want more time. They don't ever say, oh, I wish I could have, become president one more time, or that I could have put in another whatever hours. They're really focusing, it kind of goes back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, where they're going back to family is so important, and relationships. And sort of ending on that note, have you ever had to, because I know lots of us have had to give up some of our friendships because, like you said, they just don't serve us anymore in the situation. They're either not good for us in the essence of, it could be that we're just on two different paths. It could be that, somebody is really dragging you down or taking a lot of your time. Have you ever endured anything like that? And if so, what have you done?
Oh yeah, I think we all do. Yes,
We sure
absolutely.
do, Rosemarie. We sure do.
Absolutely. It happens. It happens in life. And, I think the statistic is our human body regenerates itself every 7 years. So if you look at that scientific fact, that means your body is brand new every 7 years.
Mhm.
So that means possibly you may need to have different relationships to be able to go through to the new you of this new version. And so as you grow, as you develop, some relationships won't be as important as they used to be. Sometimes relationships can become more of a burden than of a support. And I mean, it's not to say that you want to abandon your friends when they're coming into difficult times, but there's givers and there's takers. And so I think it's about balance, and it's about seeing where you are at personally as a human being in your life. And can you continue to give if you yourself are in a position where you need to be given to? So I think we make decisions based on, if you think of it, life is like a platter. There's only so much we can eat at any given time. There's only so much we can put on the platter. Manage it accordingly and make your decisions accordingly. But sometimes maybe it's also a break in terms of, maybe no, not right now, but maybe as our situation changes in the future, maybe we can reconvene from where we left off.
And so what I'm hearing from you too is, not only are you saying, say no, sort of be respectful of your time, other people's time, but it also sounds to me like you're saying manage your time wisely. And I know for many women, myself included, I have always struggled with that. I'm not saying I'm a people pleaser now, but being a people pleaser at one point was exhausting. And, decades ago, I realized that I can help, I can contribute to humanity and to change and to so many different things without, laying my body on the cross, right? And
Yes, absolutely.
and it's very empowering, because all the time, let's say you spent on one friend, and with all that extra time, you could be spending time with your family, you could be giving to your community, whatever community means to you, you could be helping your elder parents or helping your neighbor, whatever the case may be. And I love the fact that you sort of reframed that and said, kind of look at your platter, there's only so many hours, so much food, so many things that'll fit, kind of prioritize what you want. That is by far such valuable advice, and took me many years to learn.
And look, we're still always learning, right? And sometimes what's in front of us, we may think it's a certain way. Our perception is it's a certain way. And through time, we recognize it's different. And life does happen, right? We do have greater obligations than just our work, than our family. It's all smooshed up, and we're never asked in advance if we really want to put our hand up for stuff, right? Stuff happens,
Yes.
and we can choose to accept it, reject it, or do nothing. And so
Cool.
it's your choice, right? And so, author your own journey. Don't be part of somebody else's story. And it's really important to have really strong relationships around you, because when your chips are down, when your stuff is a mess and you need the support, those are the people who are going to come to you, who will be there. I have a great family. I have a tremendous best friend. I have some really close girlfriends and male friends that I have, that, but it's a small, really intimate circle. It's not thousands upon thousands of people. I know a lot of people. I'm an acquaintance with many, and not that I won't be supportive. It's just, I'm just merely one human being. So I try to do what I can do to make a difference, but I know I can't boil the ocean.
And you know what? You couldn't have said it better. And it's great that you have so many people that are in your life that support you and love you. But I go back to saying, I think it's something that you've crafted intentionally. And I think a lot of the time, as we're young, we have family and we have friends and we have acquaintances and all the nonsense, around us. And when I say nonsense, I mean, I'm sure, like you, I could go to an event every single night, three or four sometimes, if I wanted to. But you are choosing your time, and you're choosing to spend it with those people that matter to you and you love and care for. And sometimes that's yourself.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to spend time with yourself,
Mhm.
or time with your dog or what have you, or, just your quiet time. Yeah. Sometimes you just need that break from everything. And that's okay. It's okay to have space. It's okay to have time. Oftentimes we feel that we need to be busy, 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 busy in order to have a valuable life. And I would argue that value isn't about busyness. Value is about, the connection that you have, the meaning that you have, the impact that you have in your life. And so if you reframe it, the story can be so much more beautiful.
And you're saying essentially, and something I say in my daily life, I can't even tell you how many times, that it really is about quality, not quantity, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'm looking down at my phone, not because I'm looking at text messages while we're recording, but I wanted to share something with you, and I'm going to include it down below in the description. And it's just funny, I didn't even think about this. One of my sons sent this to me, and I was just like, oh, do I get to say this as a mother? But it was just sort of interesting that the up and coming generation is sort of thinking like this. And so I said, oh, so where'd you get this? And what do you think of this? He's like, oh, I love it. And I'm like, boy, I wish I had that plastered in my kitchen or on my laptop, the assertive Bill of Rights. And it's sort of, I have the right to express my feelings and opinions appropriately and have them taken seriously by others. Ask for what I want, disagree with others regardless of their position or numbers, take the time I need to respond, saying no without feeling guilty. That's a big one for women, I think. Say I don't know, be treated with respect, and not be taken for granted. I feel all my emotions, including anger, and expressing them appropriately. Offer no reasons or excuses. Ask questions. Set my own priorities. Make mistakes. Change my mind. Make my own decisions and deal with the consequences. Feel good about myself, my actions, and my life. Exercise any and all of these rights without feeling guilty. I love that. And I don't know why, I just, some things you sort of keep with you. And I'm kind of like, maybe I did something right in my life.
Oh, I think you've done a
The
lot of
fact
great
that
things in
they
your life.
kind of
So,
look at it. No, but I'm just saying, as you have adult children, you kind of hope and, do the Hail Marys that everything is, that you've taught them and continue to teach and support them, that, and then I get something like this and I think, geez, maybe, it
that's
worked. So what do
amazing.
you,
That's something to put in your kudos file, right? So, have that place where you store these wonderful things that happen in your life. And then in a time where perhaps you need it most, you can look at it and you can say, oh yeah, he did that. How amazing is that? Right? Because those are the gems that help us through the great times and the somewhat unsufferable times that we have. I would add to that long list of wonderful things the opportunity to not say I'm sorry, because I think
oh,
as women we say I'm sorry for so many things, and I think we don't need to. I mean,
I,
if you really buggered it up, I mean, truly, I think you do need to say I'm sorry. But
yeah.
oftentimes we'll apologize far too much for something that's not necessary.
Yes, and I'll be honest with you. I struggled with that for years, and somebody had brought to my attention, you start off almost every conversation with "I'm sorry," and I'm like, yes, but I was late, or yes, I was whatever. And I do feel that there is a place, like you said, for apologizing, right? But I also feel that being respectful can come across without an apology. So isn't it funny, decades after somebody pointed that out to me, one of my kids actually, and sometimes even my clients are like, oh, sorry for bothering you. I'm like, this is my job. You're not bothering me. And so I was annoyed by the fact that she brought that up many decades ago, but now, being more mature, I realized she did me a favor, because there's times that I do have to still remind myself not to start off by saying sorry, but it brings it to sort of a cognitive level that if you say, I've got to stop saying sorry all the time. I think exactly what you said. I agree with you 100%, but I think it's being very conscious of the fact that as women, we do that often.
I think we've been, trained to do that. I think there was, a time in school where we were told that we had to do that, right? So it's ingrained in how you think. But, rather than saying, I'm sorry, I'm late, for example, a nice way to be able to rephrase it is, thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate it.
Yes.
I got stuck somewhere else that I couldn't get out of. And
Yeah.
it's acknowledging, but it's also, it's not saying, it's not being apologetic. It's really saying, thank you for your time.
Yes, yes. And and I agree with that. Uh, exactly today, having you wait because of technical issues, I do apologize because everybody's time is incredibly valuable. So for that, I do feel like I owed you an apology. I think too, what I'm saying is that, but I love the way you said it. That's going to be in my notes now. I'm going to frame it in a different way. But also it's even just saying, oh, sorry, I didn't, sorry. It's just something that's so in our weaved into our vocabulary that it's just like, I hear it all the time now. And it's just so funny that when you're conscious of something and you're trying to change certain things within your own life or with the people that you support, how you see it is so incredibly predominant. So I really appreciate you giving those little tips or thanking people for their time versus starting off with an apology. Because it's almost like something that if it's done repeatedly, it's a choice or a decision that people make. But if it's sort of one off or you understand somebody's circumstances, then I think it's just, I don't know, I think it's a relationship between two people that, you either understand the person or not. But I think I was talking to more about, do you not feel that when you talk to people, and it doesn't matter what position they're in, they could be, the head of $1 trillion corporation or somebody that's, just your next door neighbor, it doesn't matter who they are. There's a lot of sorries and apologies going on.
I think that just is representative of a very stretched person. If they're like, if you look at your day and you have to say, let's say 20 I'm sorry's, look at what stress you've either gone through for the day, or look at how you're managing things, or look at it, because you shouldn't have to be saying I'm sorry all the time. There's something that's probably tipped it off that has then spurred throughout the day. Something may have caught you off guard. Maybe there was a family emergency, whatever, right? But take a look at it and see if you can manage it so it's not repeated. But I do think people do say I'm sorry, but I would have the caveat with it that I think a lot of it is just an excuse for bad behavior rather than truly being sorry.
And that, what, interesting. That was in the back of my mind as well. And I have, that I'm writing a book, but one of my big things is owning your shift, right? And it's sort of like, the other S word, own your beep.
Mm-hmm.
So owning your shift is the fact that you have to realize and recognize you need to shift some things in your life because you're inconveniencing others. Your, let's call it, bad behavior is affecting others. And so owning your shift, and we can end on that, is sort of what you're saying, is that if it's something that you see as a repeat pattern, change it.
Yeah, if you want to. And again, this is all about choice, right? We live in a world, we're very fortunate as Canadians. We live in a world where there is a lot of choice. You can choose to modify your behavior, or you can choose to be the same. If you choose to be the same, you'll get the same, set of circumstances happening on a regular basis. If you choose to modify your behavior, you might have a tremendously more enhanced life. And so it's really like looking at it and saying, okay, what do I want from this? What choices should I make? Do I feel really good about being late, for example, or by not being able to do this? Hey, no is a very powerful thing. And you don't have to say I'm sorry when you say no. You can just say no. It is what it is. Don't have the time. Thank you very much. Next. And so I think learning to cope with a variety of demands on us at any point in time allows us to then not to have to say I'm sorry as much as we do. And sometimes life just happens and gives us formidable things that we have to deal with that we didn't sign up for, but is part of our journey. And then, you may have to say I'm sorry a lot because your life just shifted tremendously because of your responsibilities, your accountabilities, your connection to others. So for example, you and I both have had parents that have passed away. At the point that my parents, either one of them got sick, there was a lot of I'm sorry's that had to happen because I had to make a decision whether or not certain aspects of my life were going to continue as normal, or I was going to focus on them. And so I think it's really about making the choices and being conscious of what you do.
So well said. Thank you so much. Rosemarie, big hugs. Thank you so much for our chat today. I'm very sad that you did not bring your unicorn hat again, but next time I'm wanting to see the unicorn, right? You know what?
Absolutely.
I love you to pieces. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. And to all the audience, thank you for a great listen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.